Jimmy Kimmel has threatened to sue Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers implied that he could be on the Jeffrey Epstein list of associates.
Dude,
what are we doing?
Aaron Rodgers is wild. That dude don't give a damn.
He's a weird guy.
He'll say what's on his mind. That's for sure.
You realize he doesn't just like have poor relationships with his parents and siblings and all that stuff. He has no relationship. Like that's a red flag. Like I'm not gonna pretend I've always had the best relationship with my parents or my kids or whatever. Like, you know, life ain't perfect, but like it's one thing to have a bumpy moment. It's another thing to be completely alienated, isolated. Right. Like I don't speak to my kids or I don't speak to my parents. Like that's a weird thing. He's a weird guy.
Yes.
Would you have been hesitant if you were because this is the conversation happening now. Like if you were the New York Jets, to just turn your whole franchise over to this guy?
Man.
Because it's not going well, obviously.
It's not. I mean, who knows what would have happened if he doesn't get hurt at the beginning of the year. But I don't know, dude. They have been down so bad. They needed that jolt.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, I'm with you. Like I'm not gonna use revisionist history here. It's not like the Jets traded for Aaron Rodgers and I came on the next day and was like, I can't believe they did this. They're gonna regret it. I was like, ooh, this sounds like it'll be fun. So it's just something people are saying now. But I'm with you. Like in the moment, just because it's not going well doesn't mean you shouldn't have done it. Sometimes things just don't go well, and this is one of those things. It seems like you should have done it. You got the jolt. You got the all the stuff that you wanted. And then it just did not go well. So either way, Aaron Rodgers is on a Pat McAfee show yesterday. And I guess the backstory is Kimmel had pulled from last week's McAfee show some Aaron Rodgers clip of Aaron Rodgers saying something goofy. And Kimmel, in his monologue on his late night shows, you know, made an Aaron Rodgers joke. Which I think at this point everybody's made an Aaron Rodgers joke at some point. Seemed pretty harmless, or at least pretty typical for late night comedy. Well, Aaron Rodgers clearly wanted to poke back, and so yesterday, you know, they're just doing whatever they do, and at some point, Aaron Rodgers says, you know, something about the Epstein list, and he says a lot of people are hoping that doesn't come out, including Jimmy Kimmel. And McAfee sort of uncomfortably laughed because you got to understand what's happening here. All right. These things are all owned by the same company.
I was going to say, this is all under the Disney umbrella.
Dude, this is Disney hires Pat McAfee to do a show on ESPN. Pat McAfee then hires Aaron Rodgers to be a guest on that show on ESPN. And then Aaron Rodgers, at the very least, suggest, although I'll tell you in a second why he will not lose a court case in this, but at the very least suggest that Jimmy Kimmel might have been an associate of Jeffrey Epstein. And Jimmy Kimmel is one of, if not the biggest, Disney employee in Hollywood as the host of their premier late night show. That's like just to put it in, like, imagine if Jessica Benson had on a guest who came on and called and implied that Chris Vernon might have been an associate with Jeffrey Epstein in a very, like, you know, on a big platform. Like that would not, you know, somebody get a phone call about that. That would not be okay.
Likely, yeah.
Right. But that is what happened with Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Kimmel, and Pat McAfee yesterday. So Jimmy Kimmel tweets last night, calls him an asshole, and says, "You put my family in danger. I've never met, associated with, traveled with, nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And for you to suggest otherwise is reckless and dangerous. And you keep it up, we will debate the facts of the case in court." Suggesting like, hey, keep it up, buddy, and I'll sue you. But here's the issue. First off, let's stop here for a second. Who's right? Who's wrong? Is this a big deal? Because like the context matters. Jimmy Kimmel made an Aaron Rodgers joke, and I promise you what Aaron Rodgers would say if you asked him about this today. You know what he'd say? I never said Jimmy Kimmel was an associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Go watch the clip. I said a lot of people are hoping that list doesn't come out, including Jimmy Kimmel. I just said he's hoping that the list doesn't come out. I didn't say he actually is on the list. Go listen to my words. Don't pay attention to what you think I said or what Jimmy Kimmel's mad about. Go listen to what I actually said. I was just joking around. So Jimmy Kimmel can joke around about me, but I can't joke around about him? Is that fair? Who's right and who's wrong here?
I think that the problem for Aaron Rodgers is that's just that's a horrible thing, right? Like to suggest that anybody had, and I see what you're saying. Like he's not suggesting that Jimmy Kimmel's on that list, but just putting someone in the same boat as the Jeffrey Epstein list. I mean, it's a horrible thing that guy did, right? Like he's a horrible person that like abused kids. So, here's
the thing. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is in any legal trouble whatsoever. All right. Jimmy Kimmel's a public figure. Aaron Rodgers will say I was joking. And even if I weren't joking, I didn't say that Jimmy Kimmel had ever met Jeffrey Epstein. Go look at the clip again. I, with a smirk on my face, said he's among the people who's probably hoping that list doesn't come out. That does not mean that I said he was an associate with Jeffrey Epstein or had ever done anything wrong or inappropriate. So I don't think he's in any legal trouble. It's just kind of a jerk thing to do, to put a prominent person's name in the same sentence as Jeffrey Epstein. It's another example of Aaron Rodgers knowing exactly what he's doing. Like when he was asked, are you vaccinated? And rather than just say yes or no, he said, I'm immunized or whatever. He just had some little very intentional way. He knew what he was doing. He knew what people would take away from what he said, but he knew that technically by what he said, he wasn't lying, right? He could at least look himself in the mirror in a weird way and say, I did not lie. I might have misled you, but I did not lie. He knew exactly what he was saying. He said it in a very specific way, and he knew exactly what the reaction would be. And he also knew that if people are upset by this, I can always say, well, that's not actually what I said. And this is exactly the same thing as that. He knew what he knew what he was saying. He said it intentionally. He said it carefully. And he now knows exactly what he can say when people get upset, which is go back and look. I never said you were an associate of Jeffrey Epstein. I just said you might be among the people who are hoping this list doesn't come out. So this will all go nowhere, but I don't think there's any doubt it's a Disney problem. Like if you're like, I wouldn't be, so I don't know that this will happen, but I bet you they're at least thinking about, hey, hold up. Why are we paying Aaron Rodgers to come on ESPN and associate our late night host, Jimmy Kimmel, with Jeffrey Epstein? Like what are we doing? Like, I bet you those conversations are happening right now or have already happened. I promise you there's somebody high up at Disney that says we're not going to keep platforming this guy. We bring in Aaron Rodgers on ESPN every Tuesday afternoon to say wild things and share controversial opinions, if not straight out conspiracy theories. Why are we allowing this guy to do this on our network at the expense of an employee that we actually value, like Jimmy Kimmel? I bet you that's happening right now. I bet you Pat McAfee's had some. I bet Pat McAfee's had some hard conversations with his bosses over the past 24 hours about what's okay with Aaron Rodgers and whether or not they need to continue this relationship. So I don't think he's in Aaron Rodgers any legal trouble for all the reasons I've already noted. But internally at ESPN, Disney, ABC, I bet you it's been an interesting past 24.
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.